sometimes it's good and sometimes it isn't. You have to move the crowd up. Well, when Abby asked me, actually she asked me to say a few words and give you a little secret. She wanted to give me some talking points. I said, Abby, I don't need any talking points. And very honestly, look, we're all here because we understand why you have to fully fund education. And I look at it, I have a little different perspective. In my daily world, I deal with words like assets and liabilities, balance sheets, budgets, expenditures, and so forth and so on. And so I have a little different perspective about why we have to fund education. And in the budget, education to me is not a line item. It should be up in the asset part as an investment. And it's not just a regular investment, it's a very long-term investment. And our return, our ROI, takes time. And, you know, this governor may come and go, but the governors of 5 and 6 terms from now will reap the dividends of fully funding education now. It's a slower process, but it's got to be done because in my opinion, I'm very passionate about education. Education is the core and the key to any success. And without it, you will not succeed. So I implore everyone to get behind this endeavor to make sure that not only do we, in my opinion, fully fund education as we're presenting it now, but even put more into education. We'll all get the dividends in later years. Thank you. That's my perspective. Let me introduce he's a long-time friend of mine and someone I really appreciate working with and sometimes working for, our county executive, county cabinets, and a real believer in education. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Delaney High School. You know, the governor has presented us with a false choice. He's telling us that we can't be fiscally responsible and fully fund education. Well, our Baltimore County story says that we can do both. We're a county that is nationally recognized as fiscally responsible, and we are also embarking on a $1.3 billion Schools for Our Future program, which is going to eliminate all current and projected overcrowding, modernize our schools, make them safer, air condition them, and we're also finding money to give our hardworking teachers and principals a 5% pay raise. Now, the General Assembly found this money in their budget, and I want to give thanks to President Miller, particular thanks to, on the House side, Speaker Bush, Chairwoman McIntosh, Speaker Pro Tem Jones, Delegate Chair Lafferty, and everyone else who worked hard to restore the education funding that the governor cut. Frankly, solely for political optics, the governor is shortchanging almost $3 million out of our Baltimore County classrooms, and the only ones who are going to suffer are not only the parents, but also the children who attend schools in Baltimore County every day. Maryland voters did not elect the governor to shortchange education, and really it's important, since the money has been found, that the governor fully fund education and don't shortchange us that $3 million in the classroom. It's now my pleasure to give from a teacher's perspective, Delaney High School teacher Phil Ressler.
Okay. I feel worse than leading off. I have to follow it. I've been teaching here 5 years, and in that time, when I started 5 years ago, we had 20 more teachers on our faculty. What does that mean? It means at that time the average teacher would have 110 students, and now probably the average teacher has 150 to 160 students. And I think in tough economic times, there's not a faculty member here who doesn't realize they have to work hard. And we all work really hard. But how does this impact our students? So if you go home with 150 essays to grade Friday instead of 110, you're going to get those back to the students in a longer time. So the feedback that they're getting becomes less and less valuable each day you can get it to them. The second thing is, when classroom sizes increase, again, it's hard to give them feedback. So the kids who probably need the feedback the most are not getting it because now you have 30 people in the classroom instead of maybe 24 kids in the classroom, so you see each kid less. So while, I mean, teachers are here, and I don't think any teacher complains about working harder, we complain about not being able to provide to our students the type of feedback and education they deserve. I'm an economics teacher, so we just talked about long-term growth and what you do to grow an economy in the long term. And the number one thing all my students will tell you, hopefully, is you invest in human capital. Human capital is education. So we're asking the governor to do simply what every Econ 101 kid in every college across the country will tell you. Invest in the human capital of students. Thank you. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Speaker Pro Tem Adrian Jones.
Good afternoon, everyone. I feel like I'm speaking to friends, as the old saying, you're preaching to the choir. This General Assembly, this past year, I serve on appropriations and the Education Committee. As a matter of fact, I chair it. And as was stated with previous speakers, we were able to fully restore the funding for education, GCEI, and if I will take you back a little ways how we even got to this point, if you recall Thornton, that's how GCEI came about in terms of providing equity and adequacies for those jurisdictions who have special circumstances in which additional funding was needed. Since fiscal year 2010, we were able to fully fund GCEI 100%. This year, the governor only funded it for 50% of that, but we had restored it. So, and I think we seem to lose sight of the importance of that additional funding, what that means in terms of the state, what it means in terms of Baltimore County. The gains that the state and Baltimore County has directly has to do with that particular funding. To now all of a sudden take that away means that we'll be going backwards. We don't want to do that. I hope that the governor will seek to restore the other 50%, and he did half, and we're asking the governor because only he can make sure that stays there. So when you're talking to your people in your area, we have heard it from a lot of people who called us during the session, and that was bipartisan. They wanted us to fully fund education, and that is a critical need within the state. We have too many gains. Our achievement gap is lessening. Our graduation rate, you name it, every parameter has gone up, and that's directly has to do with fully funding education. We don't want to go backwards. We do want to go forward. And I am calling on our next speaker, which is the Baltimore County PTA Council President, Emery Young.
Thank you, Speaker Jones. Quality education is the avenue for opportunity and improving a person's status. As parents, we want the best for our children. We will sacrifice to make sure that they have what they need. With Governor Hogan not fully funding education, not listening to parents, not listening to the educators who said that this money is needed, he is basically, as our county executive pointed out, shortchanging our children. He is basically taking away from them the opportunity to get a quality education. He's taking away from many the individual instruction that they will need to help them to learn. This will impact not just our regular students, but it impacts those students who are more disadvantaged, our students who are on free and reduced meals. It will impact our students who are considered homeless. It will prevent them from getting the individualized instruction that they need. We all understand the need for a balanced budget. We all understand, yes, have your fiscal house in order. But the investment that we have made in education is beginning to show real gains. And by withholding that funding, by saying that this needs to be kept back to put our fiscal house in order, he is impacting our children, not just for today, but for tomorrow, in ways that cannot yet be determined. So next we will have Delegate Steve Lafferty, who is the chair of the Baltimore County House delegation.
Good afternoon. I first of all want to thank all the teachers who are here and parents whose real dedication to the school system sort of makes it even more vitally important that we all urge the governor to unfence the money that he has yet decided not to spend so that our education system continues to grow in the state. I also want to thank Board President Uhlfelter and County Executive Cabinets for their commitment to fund so many important projects and to make sure that we have the funds we need. But without the additional funds, as Mr. Young has already pointed out, we're going to be further constrained in meeting some of the most challenging needs that this county has. We've heard how the voters made some choices last fall and encouraged a more rigorous reduction in spending, but I don't think there's any voter who went to the poll and said, I'm not going to vote for education money. I'm going to vote to withhold education funds because education is not important. And in fact, when the Washington Post conducted a survey, it was pretty clear that the Baltimore area individuals who were surveyed found that education funds were a critical component of what's going to help Maryland move forward. Baltimore educators have worked hard to raise not only terrific students, but also to build for the future. And I think as the events in the city over the last week have made it clear that if people are denied educational opportunities and therefore denied the opportunity to go into the workforce and to provide for their own families, that they will be denied the opportunity to actually thrive as a community. And it's important to release the funds that the governor is withholding so not only Baltimore City can grow and benefit, but the other communities that around the state, including many in Baltimore County, can get the resources that we all need to make sure that education remains strong. So again, I urge the governor to release the funds that are there, and basically with the great help from Chair McIntosh and Chair Jones to make sure that the funds are available to help our students and the future communities. Now from the League of Women Voters Education Committee, I'd like to introduce Yara Sheikh.
As a League of Women Voters Education Committee member, a community leader, and parent, I stand before you wondering why we're in this situation of begging for funds for Baltimore County Public Schools. We need to be proactive and not retroactive for our state's youth. It's not enough, Governor Hogan, to restore order to our streets. We need you to restore order and funding to our schools. One is not going to work without the other. So I ask you as a parent and as a resident of this state to restore our funding to our schools. Proaction, not reaction. Thank you.
I'll introduce myself. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Councilwoman Kathy Bevins, and thank you for the opportunity to be here this afternoon. As your local elected official, I don't walk the halls in Annapolis, but I do walk the halls of the schools in my district. And I do enter the classrooms and I do speak to the teachers. And there's always a constant theme when I have these conversations, no matter what school I go into. I sure love to teach. I love my job in Baltimore County. I love the children that I teach. And then we sometimes get into a conversation about any challenges that they may be having, or what are the assets of the school. And the answer to that question always seems to be the same. Well, I'm doing the best I can with what I'm getting. So that already tells me that our educators are stretched and stretched in their resources. So I don't think this is the time, and I don't think that this is the message that we want to send to our educators. So I do make a plea to the governor that he would fully fund education. And so thank you. And next I would like to introduce Baltimore County ESOL teacher Diane Fergia.
Thank you, and I'll explain what ESOL means.
Thank you.
It's English for Speakers of Other Languages. So I currently work in 3 schools in our county, and I already know that 2 of my schools have been cut back further for next year, so I'm looking at 4, maybe even 5 schools. My students come from countries all over the world, speak multiple languages. We sometimes have students in our county who come with no education, no prior education whatsoever. They might not even know the English alphabet. And yet these students are expected to perform on a level commensurate with their peers in the classroom. They take the same tests, they have the same report card. I am in no school for more than twice a week, so that means that my students are sitting in a mainstream classroom for almost all of their time, and I might get to pull them out to work with them to provide them with the individualized or specialized instruction that they need once or twice a week for about 30 minutes each time. It's not enough for them. I see the frustration in their faces every day. I feel very frustrated myself to not be able to provide them with what they really need. So I'm also asking for the education budget to be fully funded. We have not had an increase in the ESOL budget for 5 years, and yet our population has continued to increase by 6 to 8% across the county every year. So last year, I know the numbers were over 4,600 students total that we were servicing. So please consider strongly reinstating our funding. We had asked for more funding for this year, and I know that it's already been cut severely. Thank you. And I'd like to introduce Kathy Forbes, a Baltimore County parent.
Hi, I'm here today as a longtime advocate for education and children in Baltimore County and a BCPS parent since the year 2000. I'm here today not in any political capacity, but to advocate for doing what's right for the students of Baltimore County and the state of Maryland. Each election cycle, we're inundated with political advertising, and each and every candidate touts their support of children and education. Well, here's a chance for Governor Hogan, who won the most recent election, to do the right thing. And I'm absolutely convinced that fully funding education in this state is the right thing to do. It's not an expense, it's an investment. And it's an investment we must find a way to make. And next, I'll introduce Catonsville High School teacher, Anjanine Good.
I'm here to plead with you for our future. Our students are our future. And with the budget cuts as currently stated, our students are not feeling that. Lots of times students come into the library and talk to me about what's going on in their environment. We are charged with preparing our students to be college and career ready. But yet, our government is saying that we can only partially fund that part of their education. Please don't make a mistake with our future. Maryland has been moving forward far too long to slide back. Please reconsider and fully fund education and make teachers and students and parents in our community feel truly appreciated. Thank you.
So this is the end. We have heard from the people here, but I'm sure that I could have brought probably 100-fold teachers into this room and probably 200-fold parents into this room to have the same discussion. We are all pleading with the governor to fully fund our education budget. So thank you very much for attending, and thank you to the speakers who did a fabulous job. Thanks again.